Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name is Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing the third installment of the Fantastic Beasts franchise, Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore. Now, this franchise, at least the sequel, has a very special place in my heart, and the reason why it has a special place in my heart is not because I love the movie. It was not because of that. It's because that was the very, very first episode of the Movie Crusaders. Back when I finally decided to start doing this, The Crimes of Grindelwald was my very first review. Man, things have changed, and I've been better at putting stuff together than I have back then. So coming back around to this really almost kind of felt special to me because I feel like I've come full circle as a reviewer since then. But the Fantastic Beasts series as a whole, not a big fan of. I love the Harry Potter series, and that's coming from someone that when the first Harry Potter movie came out, I was 100% against it because I just thought it was a kiddie movie and then ended up falling in love with that franchise. And with Fantastic Beasts, at least the series itself, it just kind of has been okay film after another. Nothing that I really loved or hated, except, really at all. But just kind of, compared to the Potter films, does not match up. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, I thought was a solid film. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it by any means. But I think I've gone back and rewatched that film maybe once, maybe twice since it came out the first time. Crimes of Grindelwald, the only time I saw it was, 3 years ago when I shot the review for the channel. Because I had zero interest in ever watching that film again. It was overly bloated. The cast just seemed pointless in the film. The only good thing really in it was Johnny Depp's Grindelwald, which is no longer a thing anymore. And it really made me not want to see a third film. Thus, here we are with The Secrets of Dumbledore. Granted, like I said, we're about 3.5 years removed since the previous film. Obviously, things have changed. Now, Mads Mikkelsen is in charge of the Grindelwald role since Johnny Depp's personal life got in the way, and they basically had to recast him. Other than that, everyone else, for the most part, is back. This story, pretty much, if I was going to say what the general thing that this is kind of revolving around to, whereas with Crimes of Grindelwald, it was all kind of resorting around to a meeting at the end of the film, this one kind of all runs around a election. I know, that sounds super fun and super exciting for kids and Potter fans alike, but that is basically what the main crux of Secrets of Grindelwald, or Secrets of Dumbledore is that it's all driving towards basically an election for the new, I forgot what they call it in the film, like basically the new president of witches and wizards and all that kind of stuff. And once again, the Fantastic Beasts crew, as well as some additions, are basically thrown into this plot line that's surrounding Grindelwald and Dumbledore that, once again, they really don't have much of a purpose in this film. And, yeah, that's kind of basically the story. Jude Law comes back as Albus Dumbledore. He's fantastic in the film. I think Jude Law was a perfect casting choice as Dumbledore. He does get more to do in this movie, a lot more to do in this movie, actually. And every time he is on screen, it was a delight. You were happy to see Jude Law. Every time he got on screen, you could just feel the energy of everyone in a relatively sold-out theater, mind you. Just get livelier, and everyone was just a lot more invested in the story itself when Dumbledore was on screen. Eddie Redmayne's back as Newt Scamander. We've had now 3 movies with him as this character. He's still basically playing the same characters before. There's not really a whole lot to bring to the Newt character. He's there. He's not a big driving force. He's not going to stop Grindelwald, or he's not going to stop or save the day in certain respects. He's really there to play with the creatures, and that's another big plot point of this movie, is that it's still being called Fantastic Beasts, and it's gotten to a situation where they really need to just drop the Fantastic Beasts moniker and just have it be something Dumbledore related, because while yes, there are Fantastic Beasts in this film, they're not really prevalent to the film itself. There's one big one that's prevalent, which kind of becomes almost kind of like a MacGuffin in the film towards the driving force near the end of the third act. But bottom line is that you really don't need the Fantastic Beasts in this movie because they're not the driving force of the plot. The driving force is Grindelwald and Dumbledore, and Newt's kind of there just doing his weird dances, weird little things with the creatures, which is funny and it's lively, and it does kind of bring some energy to the film out, because the film itself is kind of still a little bit dense and kind of slow plotting all the way through. And these characters, because we've had 2 previous films with them, do bring some energy to it because we know who they are. Eddie Redmayne does fine in the movie. I mean, he's not bad in it. It's just, it's the same stuff we've seen before. Dan Fogler as Jacob Kowalski. I love the Jacob character. He has always been a highlight for me in all these films, and he's funny in this one. But if there was a character that literally served zero purpose, or you could have removed that character, put anyone else in that same spot, and the plot still would have been the same, it's Jacob Kowalski. Now, granted, in the third act with stuff with Queenie, yes, there's stuff you could have, you could only do with Jacob, but was the Jacob character necessarily needed in this film? And the answer is no. I will say this, Callum Turner comes back as Theseus Scamander, Newt's brother. He definitely gets a lot more to do in this movie compared to the sequel. I actually really enjoyed his performance overall. I thought it was a huge improvement over Crimes of Grindelwald. To me, my MVP, or the one character that I was actually really impressed with that I didn't know previously was Jessica Williams as Lally Hicks. She's a newcomer to the group that Dumbledore recruits. She's just a lot of fun, and she actually does work really, really well with Jacob Kowalski, and she brought a necessary kind of life and jolt to the group. You got Newt doing his weird thing, you got Jacob doing the comedy act because he's a muggle, and then you got her, and she's just kind of this plucky character who just seems really fun and happy to be a part of it and just wants to go out there and just be a badass. So she was definitely a positive coming out of this film. One thing that was basically a big mess, or a big miss overall in this film, is basically pretty much removing Catherine Waterston from the film as Tina Goldstein. Catherine Waterston as Tina was probably my favorite character in both films. I mean, next to Jacob Kowalski. And she basically shows up for 1-ish, maybe 2-ish scenes in the film. And not having her there with Newt and basically having Theseus kind of be the surrogate Tina role, she was greatly missed. And just even the not the point of being missed, but just the excuse for what they use for her to not be in the film, also based off the stakes of what's going on in the film, just kind of seemed rather stupid. I don't know if she was busy with another project or something else was going on, but having her barely in the film greatly disserviced the overall film, especially for the Newt character as it is. Because for some reason, for me, I kind of feel like they kept trying to push the Bunty character, Bunty played by Victoria Yeates, who's Newt's assistant. We saw in the second film, who's over the hills in love with Newt, but Newt doesn't see it. There's a lot of moments with her, and you kind of just see, like, are they trying to make us okay with Newt and her being together? And the answer is no, we don't want Newt with Bunty, we want Newt with Tina. So why are you constantly beating us over the head with this Bunty storyline? Not that she wasn't bad in the film, but we all want Tina. We don't want Bunty. Other things, Ezra Miller as Credence. Ezra Miller's going to be Ezra Miller. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on with him in his personal life, and there's going to probably be some roles that are going to be taken away from him. His Credence character was never a favorite. It was kind of more of just like this wet blanket of a character. I will say Credence's performance in this is probably his best of the franchise. Nagini is not in this movie whatsoever. They never explain where Nagini is, so that was a kind of a scratch your head wondering where she went in the main plot. Mads Mikkelsen as Grindelwald. Mads, I thought, did a solid job. This was the first film of the franchise that I actually felt Grindelwald as a villain. I think Johnny Depp played it really cool and chill, and kind of you understand why people follow him in the second film, to the point where he wasn't really a villain that much in my eyes in the second movie. Whereas with Mads, you definitely felt the villainy in this character. You understood why he's a bad guy and what he's trying to do and why he's trying to outsmart people, even though in his mind he's not the villain of the story. Do I think they should have done more with Mads in the film? Absolutely. He probably could have used one or two more scenes in this to really kind of round out the Grindelwald character a little bit better, since we are so removed from Johnny Depp and even further Colin Farrell. That I feel like they could have used him a little bit further. Richard Coyle, who plays Aberforth in this, who to me looks like a kind of a twin of Andy Serkis in this movie, he definitely gets a lot more to do in the film as well. I thought he was relatively solid. Like I said, the Fantastic Beasts, when they're on screen, I mean, they're fun. I mean, you're gonna get Pickett, you're gonna get blanking on the little platypus gold guy. But when they're on screen, it's funny, it's kiddie, and to me that's what works with the Fantastic Beasts franchise. And I was talking about this after the movie with the people who went with me, and there's two things that are greatly missing in the Fantastic Beasts franchise, and this one especially. One, this movie should not be coming out in April. Harry Potter, for the most part, worked because it was a holiday film. It was a film that came out around Thanksgiving. You usually had snow and holidays and all this kind of stuff, and that's why Harry Potter felt special, because it came around that time of year. In this film, there's a lot of snow, and there's a lot of these kind of moments, and it just felt weird of it being in April. And the whole time watching this movie, I was like, if this came out in November, this movie would probably kill at the box office, because it has that kind of magical feel to it, like a holiday season kind of film. The other part of it is, too, is that it's missing that magical touch, that magical wonder. Now, granted, there's a lot of magic in the film, and when they do the magic in the film, it is fun and exciting. But the greatness of Harry Potter was that you were watching kids develop this magic, and the wonder and the awe of children and magic, and then growing into teenagers and young adults going against these bad guys. And in this, it's just a bunch of adults, and they're not that charismatic to begin with, and so it kind of can get a little droll and dull as the movie goes on, because you're missing that whimsicalness that the Harry Potter franchise had, that the Fantastic Beasts franchise frankly doesn't. Now, granted, these creatures like Pickett and the platypus and whatever other ones they show up along the way, they do kind of bring that magical awe that the Potter franchise had, but they also just kind of feel out of place with what the story is going into overall. Now, there's supposed to be 2 more films in this franchise. They did say that they have not even written the screenplays for the 4th and 5th one yet, because if this one does not do well, they're not going to continue on with it, which, if let's go dark case scenario. Let's say this movie does poorly. Let's say it doesn't make the money they want, and they stop this film right here, and we never get a 4th or 5th film. Does this movie end in a solid way that you could be okay with this movie ending? And I would say yeah. If they didn't make another Fantastic Beasts film, I mean, you're always going to wonder, oh, I really wanted to see that, where the story ended up. But you also can look at Pottermore and read how that story ended up, instead of having to watch it on the screen. But this ending, I would say, definitely has a good finality to it. So if it doesn't come back around for a 4th or 5th film, that I would be okay with it. I will say, in terms of this film as a whole, it is the best of the Fantastic Beasts franchise overall. I think it tears or pulls on the heartstrings at the right moments, especially for the creatures. I think all the characters in the film, now that their 3rd movie in these roles, I think they've kind of gotten comfortable with them, even though some of them are out of place or not needed, or some are completely removed altogether. Jude Law's Dumbledore is great. Mads Mikkelsen's a solid Grindelwald. So it is the best Fantastic Beasts film so far. In terms of the Potter films, it's still right down there at the bottom with the rest of the Fantastic Beasts films, and probably, in my eyes, Order of the Phoenix. But overall, if you're a fan of the Potter franchise, you're going to see this movie, so it doesn't really matter what I say. If you're a fan of the Fantastic Beasts films, you're going to see this movie no matter what I say. If you're not a Potter fan, or a fan of the Fantastic Beasts films, then, you're not probably going to check this movie out to begin with, but maybe if you wanted to see what was this movie all about and all that stuff, would you be okay watching this film? Probably. You'd probably be okay with it. You're not going to be over the moon, like, in love with this, like the Potter fans would be. But I think, for the most part, if you're a Potter fan and a fan of the Fantastic Beasts franchise, or a Potter fan and just okay with the Fantastic Beasts franchise. I think you're actually going to be relatively happy or just content with Secrets of Dumbledore. I don't think it's going to blow your mind and change your whole thought process with the Fantastic Beasts franchise as a whole. But I think you guys will probably end up watching this and go, yeah, it was an improvement on the last one, which it definitely is. Going on my overall score, I'm going to give Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore a 65%. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all those social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, I will be having a review for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And also, later in the weekend, because of scheduling conflicts, Brian, Michaels, and myself will be back for the Movie Crusaders Chat About, where we talk about reboots, remakes, and original films. And next week, we'll have another Movie Crusaders Chat About, where we talk about cult films, as well as reviews for The Bad Guys, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, and hopefully The Northman, if it's available in my area, because I actually really want to check that film out. So be on the lookout for all those videos, and until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.